On October 1st, 1939, the weight of command pressed heavily on Rear Admiral Josef Unruh. The Polish Navy's defenses on the Hel Peninsula had become a desperate struggle against overwhelming odds. A desperate attempt by the Polish forces to booby-trap their own waters with naval mines had failed to deter the German juggernaut. Meanwhile, Deutschland-class battleships ceaselessly launched 300-kilogram shells from the sea. And even worse, a German armored train packed with heavy guns was rumbling toward the Polish forces from the distance on the land. Faced with multiplying threats and pinned in on the small strip of Hel, Unruh realized it would be nearly impossible to defend the peninsula. Instead, he was ready to do something drastic. The Polish Navy's remaining torpedoes were stacked to blow up Hel's narrowest point of land. If Unruh couldn't save a peninsula, maybe he could save an island. Rear Admiral Josef Unruh's daring plan to turn the Hel Peninsula into an island shows just how far our commandos will go to reshape the battlefield. In War Thunder, you too can leverage the environment in your favor as you lead history's greatest war machines in intense, strategy-driven combat. Best of all, it's completely free to play on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and now on mobile devices. With over 2,500 vehicles from 10 nations, War Thunder brings military history to life. From early tanks like the Panzer II to cutting-edge warships and jet fighters, every vehicle is intricately modeled with stunning detail. And thanks to the heavily optimized Dagor engine, War Thunder runs smoothly even on lower-end systems. You don't need extra hardware. Just a mouse, keyboard, or controller will put you in command, even in the immersive simulator mode. What makes War Thunder stand out is its advanced damage model. Each vehicle is a fully interconnected system. Engines, fuel tanks, weapons, all vulnerable to realistic damage. The X-ray view shows exactly how your strikes impact the enemy, turning every battle into a lesson in precision and strategy. Choose your style of play with arcade, realistic, and simulator modes. At Dark Seas, we're hooked on simulator. The stripped-down HUD, reliance on visual cues, and need for team communication create the most immersive battle experience outside of real combat. Use the links below to join over 70 million players worldwide. New or returning PC and console players after 6 months can sign up with the first link to claim a limited-time bonus pack, including premium vehicles, the exclusive Eagle of Valor decorator, 100,000 Silver Lions, and 7 days of premium account. Or if you prefer gaming on the go, use the mobile link to try this version and take the battlefield anywhere. In the summer of 1939, the Wehrmacht unveiled its masterstroke for Poland's destruction, Fall Weiss, or the White Case. This plan was revolutionary warfare, a three-pronged assault designed to crush Poland from all sides. The main force would strike from the west, another from East Prussia, and a third from Slovakia, converging on Warsaw. Most chillingly, the plan called for blood before war was even declared. As storm clouds of war gathered over Poland in August 1939, Rear Admiral Josef Unruh stood at the helm of the nation's maritime defense. With keen tactical insight, he recognized it would all come down to a narrow strip of land separating the Baltic Sea from the Bay of Puck, the Hel Peninsula. So on the eve of war, August 31st, Unruh made a fateful decision. He would relocate his command center to this narrow strip of land jutting into the Baltic Sea. The fortress at Hel bristled with firepower. Massive 152mm coastal guns stood sentinel alongside rapid-firing anti-aircraft batteries, while searchlights pierced the darkness, ever vigilant for enemy aircraft. Under Unruh's command, a force of 2,800 defenders dug in, transforming Hel into a fortified citadel. The air filled with the sounds of troops entrenching, gun crews drilling, and officers barking orders as they prepared for the coming storm. Yet Rear Admiral Unruh harbored no illusions. His coastal batteries, though Poland's mightiest, were outgunned by German capital ships. His anti-aircraft defenses, while determined, were desperately outnumbered by the Luftwaffe's swarms. The aging aircraft of the Naval Air Squadron at nearby Puck stood little chance against the modernized German Air Force. Despite these odds, as September dawned, along with the fury of the German war machine, Rear Admiral Unruh remained firm in his commitment to the fortification. From his command bunker on Hel, he would orchestrate a defense that would become a legendary chapter in Polish military history. Finally, on September 1st, 1939, German tanks rolled brazenly over the border, hungry for a speedy Polish capitulation and an early first victory in their master plan to conquer Europe. At precisely 1:30 p.m. that same day, the heavens over Hell opened in a brutal air raid. A piercing scream shattered the air as Stuka dive bombers sliced through the sky. They plummeted toward the Polish coastal batteries, releasing the Springbomber Cylindriche, or SC, 250-kilogram and 500-kilogram high-explosive bombs with earth-shaking force. The landscape erupted into bedlam, transforming into a hellscape of smoke, fire, and flying shrapnel. Defenders at Hell braced against the attack, their artillery barking defiantly in retaliation. They fired back with all they had, but only scoring minor hits. Meanwhile, the German barrage of SC bombs remained merciless, every explosion sending violent tremors across their positions. As the sun sank toward the horizon, casting an ominous glow over the troubled land, a second wave of German aircraft roared in at 6 p.m., zeroing in on the Polish ships moored in the port. The light mine layer ORP Mewa, stretching 45 meters, emerged as their primary target. Mewa's crew sprang into action, frantically manning its 3 machine guns, shouting orders amidst the madness. Bombs rained down like a storm, each impact causing shockwaves through the ship. With every direct hit, ORP Mewa's hull shuddered dangerously, and thick smoke billowed from her deck. The crew scrambled for safety, a safety that would never arrive. On September 3rd, the clash escalated from air to sea. German destroyers, manned with soldiers itching for combat, were cutting an angry path toward the Hell Peninsula. The Polish destroyer ORP Viker and the mine layer ORP Hryf, backed by unwavering coastal batteries, locked onto the German destroyers Z1 Lebrecht Maas and Z9 Wolfgang Zenker as they pushed through the Baltic with lethal intent. With a deafening noise, 12 7-centimeter naval guns burst into action, unleashing a storm of fire. High-explosive shells screamed through the air, crashing into the enemy ships and sending towering plumes of water skyward. Both sides poured everything into the fight. Outnumbered but unyielding, the Polish ships fought hard. The Germans suffered light damage, with Z1 limping away, mourning 4 lost souls. ORP Hryf, however, took the brunt of the assault, her deck stained with the blood of 7 brave sailors. With their advantage fading, the German ships turned and vanished into the fog. But for the Polish defenders, the fighting was far from over. As the day wore on, the Luftwaffe struck back, determined to finish their harrowing assault. More SC bombs rained down with surgical precision on ORP Hryf, Viker, and the battered Mewa. Each explosion ripped through their hulls, dragging the ships into the cold depths of the Baltic, leaving their crews powerless against the unceasing aerial onslaught. Next, the Polish ORP General Haller took a devastating hit, crippled and ultimately abandoned, sinking into the unforgiving waters by September 6th. Even the gunboat ORP Commandant Pilsudski, largely unscathed, had to be abandoned. Nevertheless, the fight for survival continued as the shadows of despair loomed over the beleaguered defenders. The first week of September 1939 saw the advance of the Wehrmacht as they tightened their grip on Poland. Armia Pomorza, or the Pomeranian Army, desperately tried to hold the Danzig corridor, but the men were forced to retreat under the deluge of superior German firepower. On September 9th, the mainland town of Puck fell. The Germans turned their gaze across the frigid Gulf of Donsk back to the Hell Peninsula. The 42nd Border Guard Regiment and the 5th Cavalry Regiment pushed forward, pressing the Polish defenders into a slow, agonizing retreat towards the port of Hell. One by one, towns on the peninsula were swarmed and overwhelmed by invading forces. By September 10th, the Germans had captured Svarzevo. The very next day, Vladislavovo, located at the base of the Hell Peninsula, fell into enemy hands. The Polish defenders scrambled to fortify the village of Chałupy, a critical choke point only a fifth of the way up the peninsula. But despite their efforts, the Germans had effectively bottled up the remaining Polish forces, hemming them in with no escape. If there was one bit of hope remaining for the Polish defense forces, it was mines. On the night of September 12th, as the dark waters of the Baltic glistened under a thin crescent moon, the remaining Polish light mine layers set out on a desperate mission. They laid a minefield of 100-kilogram moored mines near Hell. It was a last-ditch effort, but even if it succeeded against all odds, few in the Polish military, from ranked officers to frontline grunts, believed it would be enough to spare them an ultimate defeat. Before the Polish mine layers ORP Jaskowka and ORP Żapla could complete their mission by the following morning, the Luftwaffe came screaming back to disrupt their plan and unleash chaos. The German bombers screamed through the skies, diving toward the port of Jastarnia. Their SC bombs detonated in a single devastating strike, sending the Eskoya and Żapla to the depths. The remaining ships, ORP Zhaika, Rybitva, and ORP Żuraw, sustained brutal hits. They struggled to stay afloat amidst the smoke and wreckage, but were taken out of the fight. This left the weight of Hell's defense to the ever-dwindling Polish garrison forces under the command of Józef Unrug. In just a matter of days, the proud Polish navy was shattered, its surface fleet all but obliterated. Only a few light units remained operational, but they could no longer tip the scales in this devastating fight. The battle was again shifting, this time from the sea to the land, and the defenders of Hell were now entrenched for a brutal siege. The sailors who had survived the devastation on the sea joined the garrison's defenders on shore. From the wreckage of the ORP Krief, 2 120mm naval guns were salvaged and repurposed into makeshift coastal defenses. But the German navy was also not finished. The aging yet still imposing Deutschland-class battleships Schleswig-Holstein and Schlesien took up positions off the coast. At once, they opened fire on the Hell Peninsula. Their massive guns thundered, sending a mix of 28cm armor-piercing shells and high-explosive munitions screaming toward Polish positions. The blows were intense, but not yet lethal. The Germans made slow but steady progress along the peninsula. On September 25th, following the capture of the village of Chałupy, Polish military engineers executed a bold defensive maneuver. They detonated torpedo warheads at the narrowest point of the Hell Peninsula, temporarily severing the far end and transforming it into an island. This ingenious tactic briefly halted the Germans' advance. Even more, after weeks of struggling on the defensive side, the Polish coastal batteries finally struck back at the battleships. A well-aimed volley from the Polish Battery 31, equipped with 152mm Bofors naval guns, hit the mighty Schleswig-Holstein. The battleship took light damage. In a sea of despair, this was a needed victory, though it only encouraged the renewed warlust of the Wehrmacht. The Luftwaffe returned to unleash a series of punishing air raids on the Hell-fortified area. The Polish anti-aircraft batteries, equipped with Bofors 40mm naval guns, were a reckoning force, carving through the sky at 120 rounds per minute with disciplined precision. The skies were lit up with German aircraft, dodging and twisting frantically to evade becoming easy targets, but many of them couldn't shake the bullseye off their backs. The Polish forces would win this day, littering the ground with the wrecked fuselages of over 50 German aircraft. Hell stood strong as the month dragged on, and the noose around the peninsula tightened. On October 1st, 1939, the calm waters near the Hell Peninsula erupted once more in a thunderous explosion. The German minesweeper M85 sliced through the choppy Baltic waters, its crew edgy with determination as they swept for hidden threats. Men worked methodically, eyes scanning the horizon, while the sound of metal scraping against metal echoed above the growl of the sea. Suddenly, without warning, a thunderous explosion shattered the calm. M85 struck a Polish mine laid by the submarine ORP Zbik. The mine's 100-kilogram blast ripped through the hull, sending a shockwave that tossed crew members like rag dolls. Steel twisted, and debris blasted skyward as water poured into the vessel's shattered frame. Amidst the mayhem, desperate cries filled the air, but the roar of the rushing sea drowned them out. Within moments, M85 vanished beneath the waves, dragging 24 men into the icy depths, swallowed by the very waters they sought to control. The sinking of M85 was a victory for the beleaguered Polish forces. But Rear Admiral Josef Unruh knew, in the darkest corner of his heart, that it would not be enough to turn the tide. The time had come to face a decision. The Hel Peninsula, battered by relentless German assaults, was running out of time, supplies, and hope. As commander of the Polish Navy, Unruh had held the line as long as possible. But now, with dwindling rations, no relief forces on the horizon, and morale crumbling after 2 narrowly suppressed mutinies, he recognized the inevitable. This was not merely the surrender of a strategic position. It was the collapse of national defense. Weeks of defiance had turned Hel into a bastion against daunting odds. Now, Unruh confronted this brutal truth. They could fight no longer. Exhausted, his men had given their all, and he could not ask for more. With a heavy heart, Unruh issued the order to capitulate. The news melted the resolve of many of his bravest soldiers. Some of them, unwilling to accept defeat, made desperate attempts to flee across the Baltic Sea in civilian vessels, hoping to reach neutral Sweden. Most were caught or swallowed by the merciless waves. By October 2nd, German forces were the official occupiers of the Hel Peninsula. As the Germans marched in, Unruh remained steadfast, a leader who had fought until the last moment. The decision to surrender came with immense sorrow, but he knew he had done everything possible for his men and his country, accepting that the fight had been lost long before the final order was given. As the guns fell silent on Hel Peninsula, the toll of the month-long siege was revealed. Only 50 Polish soldiers had fallen, with 150 wounded, while the Germans suffered similar losses despite their overwhelming firepower. Rear Admiral Josef Unruh was taken into captivity by the invading leadership, a defiant prisoner of a hopeless battle. Unruh's time in captivity was defined by his unbreakable loyalty to Poland. As the highest-ranking officer in several German camps, Unruh commanded great respect from both prisoners and captors. Polish historian Mieczysław B. Biskupski once wrote of Rear Admiral Unruh's character, saying that he was, quote, perhaps not the greatest tactician of the interwar Navy, but his conduct in German captivity was the stuff of legend. The Germans even offered him the chance to switch sides, as Unruh was of noble Prussian descent and had served with the German Navy before the war. He flatly rejected the offer. On top of that, despite speaking German well, he refused to use the language of his captors while in their custody. Remaining resolute, Unruh continued to inspire his fellow Polish prisoners with his steadfastness and leadership. His influence led to constant transfers, as the Germans feared he was encouraging escape attempts and could inspire prisoner uprisings. After the war, Unruh chose exile, first in the UK and then in France. He lived a humble life, working as a marina caretaker and chauffeur, passing away in 1973. Today, Hel's legacy endures, commemorated by its bunkers and a Bofors gun in Warsaw's Army Museum. Play War Thunder for free today on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, or mobile devices. Use the mobile link to dive into battle on the go, and if you're new or returning after 6 months, sign up with the PC and console link for access to the bonus pack with premium vehicles, 100,000 Silver Lions, and 7 days of premium account. Start your command now.